Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Beyond the Gatekeepers. I am Bishop Vanessa M. I'm your host and moderator for this evening. We are so glad that we are here and celebrating still yet our 4th year anniversary, where we stand at the center in the intersections of social justice and community. And so we are so glad to be here. So glad to be able to talk to you about religious topics. So glad to be able to talk to you about social justice topics, political, sex and sexuality, all of the things. So we are grateful tonight for your presence. Grateful for those of you that are on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, all the places you can find us on X and LinkedIn. We are very, very happy that you have chosen to be with us on tonight. I promise you that we have a wonderful conversation in store for us on tonight. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we acknowledge all of you that are in the room with us tonight. Before we do that, we want to bring on Bishop Flunder. Bishop Flunder is the presiding prelate of the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries, senior pastor of City of Refuge United Church of Christ. And we are grateful for her presence here with us on tonight. Bishop Flunder, how are you?
I believe I'm doing fairly well for a senior, right? In this time and age where we are.
Yes.
It's an exciting time to be alive.
It is.
Open and honest about that every day, some news. And the one that got me today, Bishop Vanessa, is any state that thinks that they can put the 10 Commandments up in every classroom.
Come on now. I posted that earlier as something.
In my opinion, means that there's a soon coming in all of this ridiculousness that we are experiencing right now. There's a breakthrough. There is a Pentecost of church.
Come on, it's a breakthrough. It's in a breaking up of the fallow ground. Come on.
A Pentecost of truth telling.
Come on, Bishop.
Pentecost of bringing an end. And I know that the enemies of truth and righteousness and fairness and justice, they know it's time to. They know this stuff is not going to work, but
they do. They do.
Keep trying because they need to get those votes and they need to get that money.
One thing after another. They also, I don't know if you noticed really quickly before I say something else. You know that the House Republicans passed a bill for the draft. And so they're going to automatically draft 18 to 26-year-olds. 18 to 26-year-old men, they will automatically draft. Somebody said, well, it's no different than them having to come and register. But I'm telling you that it is different. It is not the same. You will be automatically registered. Age 18 to 26 men. They're trying to get women as well. But they are gearing up for something.
Oh, yeah. And they know that the young people are not going to volunteer.
Yes, they're not.
The only way that they're trying to do what other countries have, what Putin has done.
Absolutely.
What Netanyahu has done. They're trying to make them fight and die.
Yes. In the wars that they are creating.
Because they don't want to go because they don't believe in it.
That's it.
And that is the time. Wait till you see the response that comes from them, though.
Well, I hope that there is major pushback. I don't think it's going to pass in the Senate.
No,
right? No. I don't think it's going to pass in the Senate, but the fact that they have drummed this up and that they are looking, so we have to pay also close attention to Project 2025. These are some things I just want to say today on this Juneteenth day. We need to be paying attention. So while we are celebrating our freedom, we need to understand that they're trying to take rights away.
And they've been doing this. Every time it looks like we're just about to get there.
Every time.
A terror comes over the people who knew they should have left us on the continent of Africa.
Yeah, and the reason why, Bishop Flunder, that comes to me is because they overturned Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't think that was coming. It was almost like, somebody do a sneak attack on you and people weren't paying attention. And it did happen. And so there are things that they are working in the night.
And just like it happened, it can unhappen.
Absolutely. And
what we're talking about is that we have to get in the fray. Everybody who said you're not going to vote or you're not going to vote for someone who actually is closer to our needs, perhaps, than other. If you're not going to do it, don't complain here.
Yep.
Don't complain about the outcomes. Everybody needs to find somebody that's close enough to what you believe. And let's make sure that we vote. We have the power if we use it.
Do.
Well, that was a good beginning. Hallelujah.
See, we certainly want to honor the grandmother of Juneteenth, Opal Lee. She is 97 years old, a 97-year-old teacher who tirelessly campaigned to make Juneteenth a nationally recognized federal holiday. And so we want to champion a Black woman. Today on Juneteenth, 97 years old.
All the festivities in her name, all the festivities, new monuments that are being. Let's press forward. Let's do that, but let's press forward for the work that she did to make this happen for us.
And the last thing before we start shouting out to people and where they're from is that there is a hurricane that is our first named hurricane, Hurricane Alberto, who is making its way through where? Galveston, Texas today. Galveston, Texas today. That's when the news of freedom reached Galveston.
That's right.
Of the fact that they were free. The slaves were free.
I received that word.
This is good. And I want to shout out Bishop Sonia Williams because she posted it up today about the hurricane headed to Galveston. It is not a coincidence.
That's right.
This is something that we all need to be paying attention to as well. But let me start shouting out the people. Chuck Hunt, Bishop Flunder, is with us from Monroe, Louisiana. We say good evening to you. Tamika Love, Pastor Love out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Keith Thompson is here. Don't know where he is from. Reginald Nichols, Stockton, California. We say welcome, welcome, welcome again to Bishop Sonia E. Williams from Atlanta, Georgia, Rim Church, T-Fam. Representing Colleen, Texas, Albert Reed is here. Bishop Levi Richards, also representing the House of Bishops. Here from New York City, Chuck Hunt is with us. I think I said it. Lavinia Bean is here from Cape May. Welcome. Minister David Williams is here from the New York, New Jersey area. Rebecca Brown, we say welcome here from Phoenix, Arizona. Gerald Driver from Richmond, California. Again, people on YouTube. Maria Harris is here from Denver, Colorado. Patricia D. Nice Woods, I don't know where she's from. Pastor Erica Smith Maynard is here from York, Pennsylvania. Welcome, Darlene Connell, Queens, New York. Sharon Gill, Pennsylvania is in the house. Serrano Solis. Nala Simone Toussaint is here with us. New Jersey, New York represented. Hulan Mike Willis Elder is here in the house. God bless you for being here with us. St. Louis is in the house. Graceland Avion. Y'all tell me where y'all from. A. Bernard Womack Bishop, good evening to you. God bless. Sean Jenkins is from Metro Atlanta area. We say God bless you. Rhonda Curry Buckingham is here. Glad that you're here. Tell us where you're from. Maya Vasquez is here. Harlem, New York. Jay is here. We love that boy. Jay Exodus Hooper. God bless you. We love you. We're glad that you're on representing, I think, Minneapolis or Minnesota and New York City. Monique Nelda is here with us. New Jersey is in the house. Dr. Eric Thomas is here. Brooklyn is here. Charles L.A. Waterson. Brooklyn and Columbus, Ohio is in the house. Michelle Pittman is here. Waco, Texas is represented. Colette Walker, St. Louis. The people are on, okay? Just so you know. Jessica Job, Bella Wilson, Atlanta, Georgia. Yes, Bishop A. Bernard Womack, Birmingham, Alabama. God bless you. Yes, Jay is here. Minneapolis. God bless you. Maddie Willie, City of Refuge. God bless you. Rhonda is from Manteca, California. Chris Watson, Harlem, New York. All right, you all are going to keep coming in the room. I know this, and as I see it, and you let me know that you're here, we'll shout you out. We want to get into this conversation. I see you, Reverend Erica Geralds is here. Metro Atlanta. Antoine Johnson is in the house. Antoine, tell us where you're from. We're so glad that you have joined us on tonight. We promise that it's going to be an incredible conversation. Our Bishop Flunder is here. to help us in this conversation tonight. But we have a very special guest,
Yes.
whom we know for quite some time, Dr. Elyse Ambrose, Black queer ethicist, creative, and educator. They are brilliant. They are brilliant, and I can attest to it. I remember 10 years ago when when they contacted me and said, "Oh, can I talk to you? Can I talk to people in your church?" And I said, "Come on and do whatever it is that you need to do." And they did. And they did. And now they have a book.
Yes.
And listen, the book is not out yet. The book is out June 27th. We're going to tell you all the ways in which you can get this book. They have agreed, thank you, doctor, to give away a book and on tonight, which I am excited about. But we want you to get the book, and they are offering a 20% code off of the book. So the book giveaway is this: hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. Hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. You got to put that in if you want to win the book. The name of the book, which I love, and listen, once you see the cover, y'all just gonna fall in love. A Black Queer Sexual Ethics, Embodiment, Possibility, and Living Archive. I'm gonna say it again. A Black Queer Sexual Ethics. Y'all get that in the chat so that y'all, when folks say what we talking about, y'all can tell them what we talking about. A Black Queer Sexual Ethics, Embodiment, Possibility, and Living Archive. Dr. Elyse Ambrose is here with us tonight. I want y'all to receive her and give them all the love that I believe they deserve and that I do know that they deserve. Will you greet our audience tonight, Dr. Ambrose?
Thank you so much, Bishop Brown. Thank you, Bishop Flunder and Pastor Webley. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, all those names of those people who are gathered here tonight, the listening folks. Thank you all for being here. I'm just so delighted that one of the first times I'm getting to talk about this book. It's on Juneteenth and it's in Pride Month and it's with y'all. So I'm really overwhelmed with this space and just happy to be with you. So thank you so much.
Dr. Ambrose, it's a trifecta of things happening today. So we are grateful. Really quickly, Angela McPratt is here. Atlanta is in the house. Marlene McLaurin is here. Baltimore is in the house. Elder Boaz Parker is here. Philadelphia is in the house. Oh yeah, they coming in. Awesome. And I'm gonna keep going. And Innove Biggs is on. Welcome to all people who have not been here on before. We say welcome. Dr. Chuck Rhodes, bless you. South Carolina is in the house. So you wrote a book, 10 years in the making, and you have 4 chapters in this book. We're going to try to move through the chapters and allow for this conversation to happen. And the first chapter, which of course I'm completely in love with, just by the title alone, is examining the integrative in Black queer Harlem, where I was born and raised. I am a daughter of that great place, Harlem, for which my mother still lives and has lived for almost 60 years.
Wow.
Almost.
I'm so glad she's still there.
So yeah, she's still there. Like that. I can always call Harlem home because my mama's there, my brother's there, and one of my sisters is there. So yeah, tell us about that first chapter.
Bishop, if I might, can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Roll it out.
I gotta go back. Go back. Because it'll help me to enter into this chapter, I think, in a meaningful way. I want to say that as you mentioned, this work is 10 years in the making. And a lot of that time was spent in New York City. I was actually on the Upper West Side, longing, wishing, dreaming for a place in Harlem to open up for me, but it didn't happen. but being near the space, right? Being near the Schomburg Library, going to some of the places within the archive that no longer exist, but the address is there. So I can imagine the Black queer spaces that were there from a time before. It really meant a lot for me to experience that as I was writing. But I want to just share a little bit about how this book came to be and why I located in Harlem and talking about this first chapter. So some of you may know I was a pastor in the United Methodist Church for a little bit of time. And we were among those who were seeking inclusion within the United Methodist Church. While I was on that journey with other elders and deacons and people in the ordination process, pursuing that inclusion, I was having my own experiences as a pastor with people from Greenwich Village, where I was pastoring and surrounding areas. And so I met people seeking asylum from their country, Jamaica, right? And trying to find a spiritual community amid that asylum seeking. I met people who came from more conservative backgrounds, who I remember a particular encounter where they were a queer person, refusing to take the communion because they didn't want to, I believe their words were something around discern the body of Christ. They want to be able to discern the body of Christ rightly. I wasn't familiar with the language, but I knew that something was keeping them from the communion table. And I met so many beautiful people who were vibrantly living into their Christianity, living into their queerness. And it inspired so much of this book. It's hard to even say that, the writing process was 10 years, or the production, et cetera, was only 10 years, because it was many lives, my own and so many that I encountered along the way that inspired this project. So I just wanted to presence them and their stories and appreciate the ways that they welcomed me into their journey, that informs this book in some really meaningful ways. So my advisor when I was working on my dissertation was Tracy West, and she's a Christian ethicist, and she really turned me on to Harlem. In one of her pieces, she talks about the activism among Black women in Harlem around the 1930s, 1940s. And it just inspired me to think about, well, we know so much about this Harlem Renaissance, the entertainers, the Gladys Bentleys, the Langston Hughes, the Zora Neale Hurstons, these particular figures who shape a Black queer Harlem in our imagination. But I thought about the communities. And this Christian ethical, this Black feminist Christian ethical approach, it informs this as well, that I'm not so much wanting to focus on the individuals, but what were the communities doing to shape ethics? And so there isn't as much of a focus here on those renowned figures that we know, but instead the spaces that the everyday people created, whether it's the blues environments or the rent parties or the Hamilton Lodge Ball, all these places where Black queer people or people embodying Black queerness. I don't want to be anachronistic, but people embodying Black queerness were able to create these spaces of liberative possibility. And they form the foundation of this chapter. And one of my favorite parts was in talking about the blues environments, following Kelly Brown Douglas and Sexuality in the Black Church, where she's talking about the blues women and the blues bodies and some of her texts that followed that book. I looked at some of the lyrics that Kelly Brown Douglas maybe didn't find to be as fruitful as I did. Some of the ones that were more tapped into sexuality, more tapped into claiming the body and sort of the sorts of relationships that some of us might turn our nose up against, and that some of the elites of Black Harlem might have turned their nose up against, but that also aided in providing a space of liberative possibility for folks. So it's in the music, it's in the physical space that people create, that I'm trying to pull out this notion of a Black queer ethics.
I love that it's in the music, it's in the spaces, it's in all the spots, all the hangout spots that they used to go to, you know, all of the ones, apps in the body, all of the places. I love that. Yeah. So want to get to the first chapter, and then I'm going to let you say something. I'll let Bishop Flunder talk about what you say. And the first chapter is examining the integrative in Black queer Harlem.
Right.
I think you told us a little bit about it already, but I want you to dive down a little bit more if you can.
Yeah, sure. So I've given you a bit of the setting that I'm working with, but maybe it's helpful to touch on this idea of what is meant by integrative. So I want to begin there with something I set up in the introduction when I'm talking about this concept of Christian traditionalism, and not Christian tradition, but Christian traditionalism. That ism on the end of it helps us to get a sense of the systemic, the oppressive, systemic, and hegemonic nature of this way of imagining the world that is anti-body, and that as time evolves becomes anti-Blackness, anti-femme, etc. And so that doesn't just begin, I guess, as we're thinking about maybe more conservative Christian evangelicals who have this sort of suspicion of the body, but the body is suspicious in the mind of the writer who's talking about beating the body into subjection, right, in the Bible. The body is suspicious to Augustine. The body is suspicious to Thomas Aquinas, whose ideas shape so much of the Catholic Church and in a lot of ways inform Protestantism, right? So there's this idea that the body and the spirit, or the body and the soul, or even the body and the mind are in contrast. And so when I talk about, or I would say antithetical to one another, or hierarchical to one another. And so what I'm trying to do when I'm talking about integrative, I'm talking about body, spirit, mind, heart, community, self, all together as one, because that's the sort of ecology that I believe that we exist within. And so integrative is talking about also not leaving out those parts of ourselves that pertain to sexuality, as if they were in some sort of special category of existence that needs a special kind of scrutiny, or a completely different set of values to inform how we relate to our sexuality. But part of what I say at the beginning of this book is that sexual ethics are communal ethics, because they have to do with how we relate, whether that's relating to ourselves or relating to one another. So this concept of the integrative has to do with not only integrating the self within community as well, and taking a holistic approach to how we construct ethics. And by that, I mean one that takes seriously the interior, the body, the spirit, the mind, as much as one takes seriously the body. And so when I said before, right, it's in the music, it's in the body, and we were vibing on the spaces being created in 1920s Black queer Harlem, I think they give us a really great, I want to say, vision. They give us a fruitful and authoritative resource for thinking about an integrative ethic. And I'm not saying at all that this space was utopic. I'm well aware of the types of exploitation, the types of violences that took place within a 1920s Black queer Harlem, but I'm also within this saying that a space does not need to be utopic in order to be fruitful and fecund for our Black queer ethics or our moral and theological reflection.
Lovely. Now, I'm going to pivot to Bishop Flunder, but it put me into the mind of something that she always talks about, and we talk about on Beyond the Gatekeepers. When we talk about sex and sexuality, she has a saying she talks about from your navel to your knees. So, Bishop Flunder.
that the beauty between our navel and our knees. was created by
I know it.
was created by our God. I
All
mean,
right.
and when God looks upon it, God sees it as lovely.
Mm-hmm.
And as we say always, we're designers originals. And it was the intention of God that we not hate ourselves. We were taught to do that. Hate our gender, hate our color, hate our sexual, emotional, physical orientations. Just hate everybody but the people that seem to have power. We wanted we wanted to be like them, and consequently hated the gifts that we both are and have.
Yeah.
And it is a very important thing too. So that you lifted up, and I had to write a note to myself. I talked about the importance of music and freedom, the way that those things have come together and consistently come together. And let me be even more specific. I say that in relationship to the integrative reality of music and arts, but it's all very body oriented. You have to get in touch with, in many ways, with your body.
Yes.
And the beauty of your body to bring your body and your body's gifts to the arts. And the interesting thing that Bishop Vanessa and I talk about all the time is that when we are in praise in the Methodbapticostal, all of what we all are when we all get together and talk about this, we are always in movement. At least we were in movement when we were coming along. And there's a sensuality associated with that movement. It was not something that was vain to the church, but it was. And I tell you where, again, where it really shows up. It shows up when we have big music events. There's a lot of sensuality involved in all of that, very much like the dance floor in a not church environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a release that comes from that, and a beauty that comes from that, and a sensuality that comes from that.
Yes.
And there's more freedom among those of us oftentimes who offer to our understanding of God, our understanding of the divine, when we offer that part of us, our poet part, our music part, our 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 sensual part, the ways in which we design beautifully with color and fabrics. When we bring those things, we bring our sensuality, you know, and the only place that knocks you about all of that oftentimes are the places of religion.
Absolutely.
This is amazing to me how that religion is a girdle, is a girdle, is a girdle, is a hateful, mean, nasty girdle, girdle that makes you look like you all tight. And then when you undo it, everything just goes boom. You know?
And have you thinking that that's the way you're supposed to look, and that looks good. That don't look good.
No.
Let it be free.
Not only do I not look good, I don't feel good.
You don't feel good.
That part.
And you're waiting for a chance to get somewhere, and the first thing you do when you walk in the house is snatch that stuff off. You know,
give us free.
Give us free. Something so powerful about what you're talking about, Dr. Ambrose, because what you're doing is getting somebody's girdle off. I'm going to leave that alone right now. I'm going to stop.
It's the truth. Before I keep going, greetings to Professor Natasha from Chicagoland. Thank you so much. K. Darnell Williams, thank you for being on as well. Yes, Jay, a girdle, because that's what it is. It's got us all, and those of us who have worn girdles, we know and we testify of the constriction. Yes, that comes. Dr. Perry is on and says that they have not seen you in a very long time. So we certainly
so
honor
good.
Dr.
So
Perry.
good. I'm so glad.
Yes, yes.
Glad she's here.
Let me move to chapter number 2. But to people that don't know what we are talking about and what we are discussing, we are here with Professor Dr. Elyse Ambrose, and they have a new book that will be out on June 27th. It is called The Blackqueer Sexual Ethics, Embodiment, Possibility, and Living Archive. Dr. Ambrose has agreed to give away a book tonight, but also, and we want you to put the hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers, but we want you to buy the book. And if you look into the comment sections, into the area, you will see it pinned where you can purchase the book and you can receive 20% off on the book. 20% off on the book. So get the book while you can. Chapter number 2, Dr. Ambrose, Black queering of ethical and theological discourse. Black queering of ethical, and theological discourse. Tell us about chapter number 2.
For sure. I appreciate how this, you asking me about this chapter gives me an opportunity to say the names of the extraordinary scholars that have come before me who blaze a trail and continue to blaze a trail. They did it in the early 1990s, and they continue to do it up to now. It gives me a chance to say their names. And so this chapter, Black queering of ethical and theological discourse, if I can just say a bit about what I mean by Black queering, so there's one way to think about that in terms of, Black queer identity. But what I really am talking about there, talking about Black queering a discourse, is using Black queer or Black queerness as an analytical framework, as a lens for thinking through ethics. And so it's subversive. It's turning on its head. It's as E. Patrick Johnson, when he talks about queer, and we can sort of make the correlation there. He talks about it being off kilter. It's a different way of approaching this study of ethics, and it subsequently shifts how ethics and theology is made in the discipline. So I'm thinking about Ibrahim Abdurrahman Farajadeh. I'm thinking about Renee L. Hill. I'm thinking about Horace Griffin, right?
Yes.
These are at the very beginning, the folks that are bringing Black queer people with them as they write. Also, specifically, Farajadeh bringing people who are impacted by AIDS, bringing people who are trans, bringing a very expansive in its time, right? And even expansive now, right? Is it Anna Julia Cooper that talks about it? I feel like Irene Monroe picks this up. When and where I enter, the race enters with me. When I think about these scholars who've come before me, it's the cadre of communities that come behind them as they are coming to theology, coming to ethics, coming to religious studies, these predominantly white fields, and saying, essentially, Black Lives Matter, Black LGBTQ, Black lesbian, Black gay, Black queer, Black bisexual, Black trans lives matter. And so I'm thinking with these LGBTQ focused scholars, some of them openly LGBTQ plus people, some of them LGBTQ focused in their scholarship. And they make up this chapter. And I just talk about in that chapter the ways that they shift ethical and theological thinking, allowing us to create space around questions of 5 different categories of inclusion, a primary question that they raise, subjectivity and identity, resistance and difference, embodiment, and empower. So those are the 5 categories that I break that 3 decades long discourse into. And I like to think of this chapter as like, I reference it as spilling the tea, putting them in conversation with each other about these 5 themes, and where they may not have been in conversation with each other sometimes because of the unique disciplinary positions that they held, whether in pastoral theology or in womanist ethics or what have you. I bring all the categories together to think about these 5 different topics, and it was really fun for me because these are the people who have shaped me, and that are going to form what we get to in chapter 4, or inform what we come to in chapter 4. But their analyses, I would say, were crucial to my understanding of how we might approach the study of ethics, particularly from a Christian lens. And people like Roger Sneed, for instance, were instrumental in pushing me, and as well as the Lathea Nikki Young and Jennifer Leith, instrumental in pushing me, us, beyond the category of Christian when we think about theology and ethics and Blackness together, but an ethic of openness, as Sneed calls it, that allows us to think about humanism, that allows us to think about philosophical approaches, African diaspora religions in our approaches, right? They create that opening that I think is so important for understanding a Black queer approach to ethics.
Thank you. Bishop Flunder?
First of all, you brought some of my dearest friends. Mother and I were just talking about Ibrahim Farajaji Jones and how he and his partner sat at our table. We had dinner together, and they came over one night, and we had just the best time. We go back so far. I mean, and Jennifer just left her in Canada some months ago, and talking about queer, over against queer, and it was such an incredible, the genius of the folks whose names that you've called, and yours also.
Thank you.
Suggests that we are in a completely different place. And no more standing outside of the door, knocking on the door, saying, "Let us in." Basically, the place where we are theologically, the place where we are fiscally, the place where we are in terms of preparation, is that if that's the way y'all want to be, we will create us another world. If that's what is necessary, what we will do is we will not continue to knock on the door and beg for an opportunity to come in. What we will do is build a completely different structure with a door of its own, and suggest to you, if you want to act like you got good sense, you can come over here and drink from the water that is from this well. But this kind of conversation that we're having tonight, so, and the people whose names that you lifted up that have influenced and empowered you, we can remember when they were just a blip, but now they are the elders, whether they are in the earth realm or whether they are not in the earth realm. An incredible shift is happening. I hope everybody is grabbing a hold to this and ready to be an agent to speak truth to power. To speak truth to power. I like all the names. I got happy. It just went from one to the other to the other. And thank you for lifting them, for not forgetting. Thank you for not forgetting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I feel like if I may, there's no way one could. There's no way one could. I think when I think about those figures that I name, who are my colleagues, some friends, some people who I've never met, but whose work inspires the work that I'm able to do, I think about the crisis moment that some of us may have to encounter at some point. And you're touching on it a little bit, Bishop, but I think about the moment of like receiving the text from a loved one that says, well, the wages of sin is death. And it's a Tuesday morning and I'm just trying to chill and eat some eggs or something, just chill out, have a regular Tuesday. And this is what's in the text messaging app. And I know that people experience these similar sorts of assaults on their spiritual, physical self. And it's their work it's their work, and hopefully it's this work that I hope can provide some reprieve, that I hope can provide some wind, some breath, some air, some spaciousness outside of that girdle of the restrictions and the prohibitions and the rules around sexual ethics that would cause us to deny our sacred self or keep us arguing about these same cobbler texts over and over again. There comes a point where um, the arguments must cease. And there comes a point when it's no longer even helpful. And
It's
what
not
are the
helpful, it's not
resources?
healthy, it's all of
Yeah.
it, you know?
What are the resources that people have if we're going to deconstruct those texts or even reject those that reify white supremacist, Western, and anti-body logics? If we're going to deconstruct them and throw them out, we need a supplement. And these ethicists and theologians have provided that supplement for some time, and I'm so pleased to be able to bring them together in this one book and offer the opportunity for us to build upon, to depart from, to appreciate what has come before, and how we can continue to ethically reflect together in order to move forward.
Yep.
Love that. Yeah. These arguments are not helpful. They are exhausting. I got a couple of calls this past couple of weeks from some young people, 26, 27 years old, who, you know, parents are just not feeling their queerness. And it's always a scripture, you know, it's always hell, it's always a bashing coming from the place where they live, where they have to lay their heads at night, you know, where they spend most of the time out of the house, come in very, very, very late.
Yeah.
By the time so that the parents are sleeping, you know, so that they don't have to deal with the hostility, because all of that is energy and it hides within the walls. And it's just a sad thing that this is still going on, even in Pride Month, where, you know, kids, young people, young adults, everybody, they out celebrating, no matter what your age is. You're out here celebrating. It's a pride over here, especially in New York City, a pride over here, a pride, every borough has one, you know, but that you're so beat up mentally, emotionally, that you can't even go. You can't even go to enjoy, because all of this is waylaying on you about what is being said. And so you are so right how it's just unhealthy. And thank you for giving us a space to breathe. That's why I want people to get this book. That's why I want, you know, these young people to be able to read this book so they can have the space to breathe, because that thick air, it doesn't work. Go ahead, Bishop.
Can I just say one other thing? And the way that we watched this reality back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, watch this reality of going out on a Saturday night and hanging out with your friends and coming in late, to your point, to the house. Often the next day after that Saturday was to go to church and repent and feel like you could not take communion, or all the other things that were associated with it. It was like a bloodbath. It was like you would go into those experiences and try to wash off what happened in the previous experience, because internally, for many actually who still live in that reality, it does not take away from the Saturday night, but it also takes the beauty away from Sunday morning.
Yes.
I refuse to give up my Sunday morning. I absolutely flat out, until we had to create a Sunday morning that would receive us.
Yeah.
We had to create it. It wasn't there. The only Sunday morning we had was a Sunday morning that hated us. we have created, and everyone who hears us needs to know that at some point, when you start talking about a new canon, it's the same thing as creating a whole new understanding of a Sunday morning that is just as glad,
yes,
and just as free,
yes,
as your Friday night. That is as your Saturday night. That's the beauty of being change agents. I'm going to back up off of that, but you hear me?
absolutely, absolutely. I hear people, and I see that they're asking, what is the link for your book? If you go to the chat in the comment section, it's pinned. It tells you where. Just click on the link. There's a 20% discount code you can use to get the book. Everything is there for you. If you want to try to win the book, you can put hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. We are doing a free book giveaway on tonight. And I see some other people have come in. I see Bishop Pierre Diamond is here. Minister Diane Bobbitt is here with us. Thank you for joining in. Arjai King, thank you for joining in. Rhonda Height, thank you for being here with us. We see you and we acknowledge your presence here with us on tonight. I don't think that I've forgotten anyone. If I have, you'll let me know. Karen Coleman is in the house. Thank you, Pastor Karen Coleman, for being here with us. Yvette Busby is here with us. Thank you for being here with us. We are moving to chapter number 3. We are moving to chapter number 3. A powerful chapter. Elijah Joy is here as well. Welcome, Elijah. Thank you for being here. Spirit in the dark body. Spirit in the dark body. Blackqueer expressions of the M material. I just love it.
All right. Where to begin? Well, first I want to pick up on something that Bishop Flunder mentioned, talked about those forces that attempt to take away the beauty of Sunday morning. I feel like this chapter is a testament of those who refuse to have that beauty taken away from Sunday morning, Monday morning, Tuesday evening, Wednesday afternoon, right? Because they're, as they live into their Black queerness, they practice a liberative and really, I can just say, I mean, beautiful in the most sublime sense, a beautiful practice of doing ethics and making meaning in their lives as who they are. And so I'll say that this chapter is an outgrowth of a photosonic exhibition, which you're familiar with, Bishop Brown, that I undertook several years ago of the same name. That Spirit in the Dark Body is inspired by Aretha Franklin, Feeling the Spirit in the Dark. Also, E. Patrick Johnson, who has an article that likens the dance floor to that spiritually free place or space. That right, same title there, Feeling the Spirit in the Dark. And Yosef Surret has a book entitled Spirit in the Dark. So I put Spirit in the Dark Body because, again, we're still talking about the integrative. And dark body meaning not only Black, but a body that is able to hold both, let's say, articulation and mystery, able to hold ambiguity, able to hold liminality and the unknown. And that's an okay space. That is actually a right and good space to be. Immaterial, double entendre. Immaterial as in things that are immaterial tend to be regarded as unimportant. Like the matter is immaterial if it's insignificant, sort of the way that Black queer spirit is discarded in that way. But immaterial as in not material, the spirit that moves wherever it wills. So Spirit in the Dark Body, Black queer expressions of the immaterial. There are photos associated with this chapter.
Yeah, I love that's Nala, y'all.
That's
Nala
Nala,
Simone
y'all.
Toussaint. Remember
What a
River
joy.
of
Thank you,
Water.
Nala.
Yes.
Thank you. All the folks, Kawak, all the folks that were making up this chapter. So this is a chapter of oral histories. I had the pleasure of locating, traveling to, sitting with, having some tea, spilling some tea, just kikiing with some really extraordinarily beautifully whole people, if I can just put it that way, to talk about how they live into their Black queerness and their spirituality and or religion. And so there's 9 people, and in this chapter I actually don't do a lot of editing of their words. I put it forward as an oral history because I want them to define themselves for themselves, and for it to be a moment for us to hear that Black queerness in their own words. And I didn't really want to use it to serve the purposes of my theoretical framework, but I think what it does is provide an example of what it looks like to do ethics in an integrative fashion. And so when I'm in the title, when we talk about living archive, the first part of the living archive is Black Queer Harlem. The second part is the Black queering of the discourse in ethics and theology. And the third part is these living practitioners among us who are at the intersections of Black queerness and spirituality / religion. So I had to photograph them for my own desires. I needed to be in conversation with them. I needed to see them. I needed to touch them. I needed to hear their stories. Black queer person to Black queer person. Person living into Black queerness to person living into Black queerness. And it was just the most moving experience for me. And I think it helped me to even finish the book because I was so tired of the words, right? The books, the more than 100 books that I'm sure I had to move through to create this book. But like, just to see the embodiment was of the people who I have in mind as I'm writing and who inspire me as well, I think was just so important for this chapter. So I needed to presence them physically through their image and also through their unedited or unmediated words.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And I mean, you know, when I saw Nala's face, I was like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. I know that Nala's on tonight, just to be able to tell their stories. Mm-hmm. Because I think that that's important to be able to share, for them to share their own stories, coming from their own lips.
Yeah.
About where they've been and where they're going. Right. And how they're becoming, because, you know, they're not static. It's a constant evolution, but where they were right then at that time. And I'm pretty sure if you talk to them again,
yes,
10 years later, they may not even be in that space, you know, in terms of who they are. There may be even more of an evolution to who they are. So brilliant, quite brilliant. Bishop Flunder? Yes, let's show these photos again.
That's what I was hoping we would do.
Yes, let's show them again. Yes. It's beautiful. Yes. Just such a powerful photo.
Yes, this is a family.
Yes. Charlie. Yeah. Great. Please.
Just beautiful.
Bishop Flunder.
Yes, yes.
You said you had how many people in this?
9 in total.
9 in total.
Right. The original exhibition was 12. And then, you know, moving it into production, adding some new people, we shifted some numbers around a little bit, but 9 are in the book, and it's the longest chapter, but I think it reads as if you were there. Hopefully, I tried to keep some of their language in there as far as like slang and things like that. So hopefully it reads just smoothly as if you were in the room with us. Dr.
Eric Thomas says, and that the stories are with us in the present, not only in the past. Absolutely.
Yes.
That's my teacher, Eric Thomas.
Yeah. He's my teacher too.
Yes.
Just a brilliant brilliant man. So grateful for him.
Yeah.
Okay, Bishop Flood, do you have something to say about this particular chapter, these photos?
Well, I love it because basically what you are doing is releasing people. You know, they release themselves and you're releasing them to show the depth and breadth of who we all are and the privilege not to have to deal with sameness. You know, we were talking we were talking about church uniforms, Mother and I, the other day, about what we had to wear for different things. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there was a funny season when if you go back far enough, first came the mini skirt, but after the mini skirt came the midi skirt. The midi skirt was like a mid calf skirt that you wore tops with. And you would have thought that this would have been a big hit as it related to church, and particularly folks moving away from the mini skirt. Because the mini skirt, would you could see little bits of cheeks in the back. It was just really not supposed to happen, and the saints just preached against it. So the midi skirt was middle the calf, but they found a reason for the midi skirt to be a problem. It was long enough, it wasn't tight, but it was the thing. It was a midi skirt and boots was the bomb diggity in the 70s. That's what you were supposed to wear. And because it was received as a new outfit to wear to be in the in crowd, folks started preaching about it all the time. What you don't need with it. And then we're looking at it and thinking, well, it's long, it's not tight. What in the world could be wrong with this? That is the way in which, can I just be very, very
Yes,
honest
please.
about this?
Absolutely.
When people start talking about, you shouldn't have sex like that, or you shouldn't involve yourself in sex like that, then what they are saying somehow that there's no in their sex. If I mean, because somehow, because it's theirs, it's sanctified, and this is horrible. But all kind of things go on the side of if you understand what I'm saying. It's supposed to be. So it's shifting that fixation that somehow says, if you don't do it our way, you don't do it God's way, as though you somehow have a handle on God such that you can use God as a mallet, as a hammer against what you don't feel that you want to do or that you don't want to see. And you just stuck, even if the midi skirt is doing everything that the other skirts were doing. It's just didn't come out of church.
Right.
And it's not allowed because it's popularly worn by the unclean and the unholy. There's so much I can say about that.
Yeah.
But I thank you, because I want to
go ahead.
Bishop Flunder, thank you for doing that, because I think you bring us to chapter 4.
Yeah.
Constructing a Blackqueer Sexual Ethics. Like, that is why this conversation is important. And I want to say to Dr. L that this book, it has come to set the captive free. Even those of us that are church, even those that are queer and still have our closed sensibilities, it has come to open us up to possibilities of nuances about ways of talking about things that are not the way we abuse people when we talk about things, and we make people feel diminished because they are doing something that you're not doing, or living in such a way that you're not living, in such a way that you're not living, dressing in such a way that you're not living in. And everything has to, we deem it as antithetical to this, because this is the way that we see things. This is the lens, and we refuse to look through other lenses to see and appreciate and know the beauty of sexuality and sex that God and the Orishas and the ancestors have created for us.
Yeah.
So
And that's how the hegemonic discourses work. What I mean by that is, like, as you all are pointing to, what you're essentially pointing to, you're pointing to the skirt, or whether you're talking about the of a certain kind of sex, etc. It's a kind of way of presenting an idea or framework in the world as if it is this way and always has to be this way. And because it is this way, always has to be this way, whatever is antithetical to that is to be rejected. And this is how it's us and them. It's us and the other, and so often the other is us. And in that way, right? The rules that make up that hegemonic discourse are considered to be the norm. And so part of what I argue in the book is, what would it look like to look beyond the norm, to look actually to that which is deemed abject, which, looking at the norm, hasn't served Black queer spirit, Black queer flesh, Black queer self. What would it look like to look at what has been deemed abject, to begin thinking about moral imagination, to begin formulating ethics? What would it look like to move from a rules-based ethics, a rules-based ethics that says, don't do this, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you cannot do, right? Many, many rules about what you can and can't do, instead of shaping sort of values and ways of approaching not only sex, but communality and relationality that is rooted in right relationship or justice love, as Marvin Ellison within Christian ethics calls it. That idea of moving away from the hegemonic discourse that has established itself as the way, right? When we construct a Black queer sexual ethics, not the Black queer sexual ethics as if this were the only one, but a Black queer sexual ethics that allows us to push back against those and think beyond into a different kind of possibility for ourselves and for our own fruitfulness, and using those resources, that living archive, as thinking partners with us as we continue to return to the task of constructing ethics in community. The more information that becomes available, to the more experiences that become available to us, we're able to think about ethical counter patterns to this normativizing and really destructive traditionalism that has kept us bound. So that's what's this chapter: moving away from the rules-based to a relations-based sexual ethic, a trans-religious ethic as well. So when I talk about trans-religious, I'm talking about across religion, over religion, beyond religion. Before, when I referred to an ethic of openness with Roger Sneed and his humanistic framework, I'm thinking about African diaspora religions. I'm thinking about the people who are spiritual but not religious. I'm thinking about the people who are humanists, who are agnostic, who, right, where the particular religious discourse has failed us. I believe that a Black queer sexual ethics allows us to create now, and to explore the possibility that arises when people come into community from wherever whatever their religious orientation may be, trans-religious, across over and beyond religion, in a way that takes the best of these traditions, right, and allows us to leave behind what isn't helpful in order to have a useful ethic. That's what really pushed this book forward in the first place. When I was in, and I'll close with this, when I was in the United Methodist Church, and we were kind of just going around in circles about including LGBTQ people, our sage, Dr. Tracy C. West. I remember at the General Conference in, I believe it was 2012, she was one of the delegates, and she said that we need a comprehensive, this is a paraphrase, a comprehensive and useful effective Christian sexual ethics. We need that ethics, because if we don't, we're going to open the door to gay men and period, who embody that in a way that feels comfortable to us, lesbian women who embody that in a way that feels comfortable to us. And then the question will be, well, what about the polyamorous people? What about the trans people? What about the bisexuals? What about people who don't want to be loving somebody right now and they're just doing them as it relates to their desire and pleasure, right? It's going to continue. We're going to have to continue to come back to this drawing board. And so what I had in mind with this book is responding to such a call, not to keep coming back and having to open the door a little bit for the next group of people to come in, but what would it look like to just blow the door off? Or let's just go outside.
How about that? There's a lot of space
a
out
Blackqueer Sexual Ethics.
Yes.
A communal ethic that is expansive and as I say, not straight and narrow, but as Black queerly crooked as it is wide. That's where we land in the end of this.
Jay says ethical free thought is vital for the human flourishing of queer possibilities.
Yes, and you will appreciate reading from Dr. Hooper in this book as well. Yes. And thanking them for their work on the ethical and humanist front, for sure.
Yes. And it is because they have been to our conference. It was online, and I think I'm going to see them in Las Vegas as well. Fantastic. And I'm looking forward to having conversations with them upon their arrival. But I want to say, as it relates to this, you have opened up a way. Mm-hmm. I like that you said it's not the queer sexual ethic, it's a. Yes. Right. So, which means that it's not etched in stone. It can be expanded.
And it shouldn't be. It can't be if it's Black queer, right? It can't be, and it shouldn't be.
But what we have done, what the church has done, is tried to concretize everything. Mm-hmm. And so we have people like yourself, like Bishop Flunder, and like all the other people that you've named, and myself, that saying we were not going to be concretized. We're going to break out. We're going to chisel down these walls. We're going to get out into the open, and we're not going to let you fence us in or box us in or build another wall or try to hide us. We're gonna be out in the expanse.
Yeah. Can I say one thing?
Please, Bishop.
That the people that push back against what it is that both of you have just brought up just now are perpetrators in doing the same thing, just on other subjects. Mm-hmm. You know, there's nobody that I know that I know in a heterosexual marriage that I have both been in myself and others, that wives obey your husband as you do the Lord. I don't know anybody that does that.
Me either. I ain't never did it.
So none of the people that raised me believed that they were supposed to obey their husbands. If you have any questions, ask your husbands at home. Be silent in the churches. I don't know. I never knew the women in the churches that raised me that believed any of that. Or people who were the history of chattel slavery. Slaves, obey your masters as you do the Lord, with fear and trembling. We don't believe that. And here's the truth that I think that we have to grasp. When we put the heart of God, or what we believe to be the heart of God, between the front cover and the back cover of a book, and we say, or an amalgamation of books and songs and poems, when we say that this is the word of God and this is all that God is saying, how do we then justify the stuff that we just don't believe? That's not unique to the queer community. Most of the people that raised me didn't believe most of what was in the book. We would still be in chains. We would still be in chains and thanking God for giving us a good master. If we believe the literal, so we are selective. This is the reality, that you are undressing in front of us. And then I believe we are moving to what I consider the words of the writer of the Hebrews in the book called Hebrews, that it was never meant to be put on stone. It was meant to be put in hearts of flesh. That way, when Spirit begins to tell us what is good for now, we can hear it, and we don't have to go back to see if Moses and them knew about it, or if Jesus and them, when they were talking over at Mary and Martha's house, did they know about it? The question is, what is Spirit saying now? For now, and who can hear it?
Who can hear it?
Who can hear what Spirit? Because I'm telling you, it's a lot of folks saying, but they're not hearing from the divine. I know that they're not. Who can hear it? What you've done, Dr. Ambrose, is you are pushing the envelope to speak into this current atmosphere what it is that the Spirit would say, not only to the church, but to every enclave of people who are looking to hear from the divine. We can hear, we can also unhear some stuff that we stuck in a book. God's not in a book, but we can unhear it and believe that Spirit can reveal to us what we need to hear. And it scares people. It terrifies people when you just believe whatever you want to. Well, that's what you're doing. You're doing the same thing.
You're doing the same thing.
Choosing in terms of what satisfies you.
Yes.
But I think it scares people so often, and I know we're coming up on time, but I think it scares people so often because they feel like they'll be left to their own devices, and that we can just do whatever we want in a very individualist way. And what I think is so important when I say that a sexual ethic is a communal ethic is that this isn't work you're doing by yourself. None of this. It's very individualist. It's very Western to put ourselves in a position where it's us and Jesus.
I got you.
In the valley trying to figure it out. I don't think it has to be that way. I think communities time and time again come together in order to be liberative possibility for one another, and it's in community that we begin to reflect and figure out what is good and what is right, what serves the common good in our time. And I think doing it together is a great first start.
And if you hear it and I hear it and we hear it, we're going to be moving toward one another. So, I felt, I got that same thing, that thing that you have, that is the communal reality. And that is what Jesus and them did. They did that in Mary and Martha and them house, eating on the floor. That's the way. That what you are saying was what was the intention, I believe. So thank you for saying it. God bless you.
I did give the audience the opportunity to ask questions. I'm only going to take 2 questions. I need you to put the word question in front and then ask your question. The question needs to be relative to this conversation, please. I want to make sure that we get it in. I have another title for this book, Dr. L. We Outside. Okay? That is what our title. We Outside. Yes. Okay. So questions. If you have questions, I'm gonna give an opportunity for you to ask questions. If not, we're gonna go into our advertisements, and then we will go to our giveaway. So if I have questions, I want you to write the question down, but we need to know that it's a question. So if you put the word question first, then type your question, we will know and we will acknowledge it. I want to make sure that I see the comment section and people are commenting. What is God saying in this culture for this time and this people and for this reason? Yes, Dr. Elyse. Dr. Salisbury is on with us as well. Lovely. Thank you so much. Dr. Waterson is on with us.
What is God saying? What is the community saying? What are our ancestors saying?
Yes.
We'll be expansive in that. For sure.
Yeah. Well, we're not gonna delay. I'm going to get a final thought from you.
Oh,
and Bishop Flunder. Oh, okay. Here, before I do that, okay, here go the question. Any pushback from academics related to your thesis?
I think that the pushback, thank you for the question. I think the pushback that I receive may be the pushback that liberative ethics as a subfield may receive in general. So we have the womanists, we have the Black feminist theologians and ethicists, we have the Black theologians to thank for opening pathways for us to take seriously experience in the construction of ethics and theology. Typically, we have four sources for thinking about ethics and theology: is scripture, tradition, experience, and reason. And for much of the existence of academia, the experiences of white men, able-bodied, of a certain economic class, has governed our discourse. And what liberative ethics does is name that this is happening, that yes, we are taking seriously our own experiences. Yes, we are, in the example of womanism, taking the experiences of Black women seriously, even deeming Black women's literary tradition as sacred text, right? We're taking our experience seriously, taking it from white supremacist imagination and foregrounding that in how we create ethics and theology. So I haven't received the pushback to my face, but I think the larger discourse with it, which I am a part of, which is liberative ethics, can often get into that place of critiquing the particularity of the ethics, critiquing how attached it is or how integrated it is with experience, and how some folks would prefer different sources for thinking about the authority within ethics and theology. But I would argue that it rests with scripture, tradition, experience, and reason, but that experience is foremost.
Thank you. Second question. This is the last question. Carlton E. Smith asks, how are we addressing the possible political upheaval from this from a liberating non-defeatist theology this fall? as they sip tea.
Tea and water. I had to cleanse my throat chakra. I don't know. I think that is a question fruitfully worked out in community.
Yes.
That is a question fruitfully worked out in community. But I will say this. If we believe in liberative possibility, we cannot confine that to the moments that make us most comfortable. But if we're going to carry liberative possibility, if we're going to carry freedom, if we're going to carry our ancestors with us, if we're going to carry our Black queer stories and possibility, we need to carry it everywhere. And I'll say that.
All right, I'm going to ask this one. How would one approach a somewhat conservative Black church to open up to be more inclusionary within the LGBTQ plus community in today's Black church?
I'll begin my remarks by saying that my primary area of study is within this trans-religious framework, but I'll try to speak to Black church. And the question is, how to approach someone in helping them to be more inclusive, or inviting them to be more inclusive. That's the question.
Yep.
Yeah.
Inviting the Black church, conservative Black church, to open up to be more inclusionary.
Well, in chapter 4, I contend, and in chapter 2, I contend with this question of inclusion. And I say that my challenge with inclusion is that it holds within it the notion that there is someone who has the power to let someone in and power to let someone or keep someone out.
It's true.
And I don't like that kind of locus of power, because I don't believe that is a fruitful place for a people seeking liberative possibility to begin from. And so I counter with this idea of communal belonging. And for me, belonging is not up for debate. For inclusion, and I observed this when I was fighting for it within my large denomination, it's an asking, it is a petitioning, it is a coming before, constantly trying to push down the door. And again, what would it look like? And I think Bishop Flunder is a living example. What would it look like to explode the door, to go outside? And so I have to say that I am not in the space of taking up this task of pushing for inclusion. But I will say, what is significant to this book, what is significant to everything that we've talked about, is the idea of not only the lived experience of Black queerness, but the subtext there has always been what I said about chapter 3: the spirit blows where it wills.
Yes.
And one can take that with them when they go into the place to try to talk to the person about it. I think, but I have to say, the discourse has been alive since the 1990s. It is 2024, and I am interested in thinking about what other possibilities are there.
That's good.
What other possibilities are there?
Yeah.
For establishing, creating, nurturing the liberative Black queer possibility that is already ours, in our innate belonging.
Yeah. Yep. Somebody said, you just liberated me from white supremacist imagination.
Ashe.
I love that.
Liberated yourself.
Bishop Flunder has to leave us. I want her to give one word, and then I know that she has to go, and then there's another question I'm going to go to. Everything. Bishop?
Oh, this is so blessing me. And I do have to take care of one more thing this evening, but it is extremely important to me for us to encourage everyone who is hearing us tonight, under the sound of, old folks say, under the sound of our voices, to, if you can, participate in our leadership conference. Bishop Vanessa is going to say more about it coming, because basically everything just about that we've talked about, that we need to talk about, because we are on the edge of an election season that's different to anything we have ever experienced before. And for all of the people who say, well, I'm not worried about it, let me just say to you that I don't think that this is a time for us to sit still and just see what happens. I believe that what we are going to need to do is get in the fray in the ways in which we need to get in the fray, to speak truth to power in the ways in which we need to speak truth to power. Bishop Vanessa will say more about it, but I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you with the importance of our coming together. We need it for the generation that we are in. We need it because of the shifts and changes in religion. We need it for the sake of the generations that are coming up after us. We need to get together and have some conversation about what we need to do in extremely significant ways in the time that we are in. And no one has an excuse not to be involved. I want to encourage you. God bless you, and keep me in your thoughts and prayers. We got more to talk about, Dr. Ambrose. We got some more to talk about. And you all pray for me, pray for Mother, and pray for our meetings tonight and in the upcoming meetings. God bless.
Thank you, Bishop. We appreciate you so very, very much. Yes. Dr. L, I have talked to you, but there is one last question.
All right.
And the question is, how does reproductive... It's gone away. How does reproductive impact the work of liberative justice? Reproductive justice impact the work of liberative justice. That's what they...
I need to, can we say a little bit more about...
person that asked the question, you need to expand it a bit if you can. If not, we can...
You can about where they're coming from. That would be helpful for me.
Yeah, but here's what we can do. You can actually rephrase it in the chat, and Dr. L, this lives forever. And if you feel like you want to go back to it, you can come to the page. You have our link tree. You can come to the page and you can answer that question if you choose.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
I want to go ahead. I want you to
say. I can just tell that person. I want to think about that some more. I would love it if my email address is accessible. I'm glad to talk with you about it, but I think that I would want to think about that a lot more.
Good.
On the reproductive front in particular.
Yes.
Yeah, I would want to think about that some more.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. Don't leave us yet. Remember that we're going to give away the book, #Beyond the Gatekeepers. We want to go on and you'll see it right there. So make sure you put in so you can win. But more than that, we want you to purchase the book. Dr. L has been so gracious to give us a discount code. It's 20% off to purchase the book. We want to support their work. This work is about us, for those that are queer, but those of you that have queer children, grandchildren, and so forth and so on, pastor churches, leaders anywhere, in any denomination, humanists, I don't care what it is. We want you to make sure, universalists, that you purchase a copy of this book. We outside. Okay. We are outside, and if you're not outside, it's time to go outside. It's really time to go outside. Let's do those few commercials. And so, if you've been watching Beyond the Gatekeepers, where we discuss current events through a theological and justice-informed lens, we want to say thank you. Thank you so much for your support. We value it. We appreciate it. We know that you go back and look at it. We know that folks are using this to teach in school as a part of their curriculum, and those things that they are pulling together in seminaries and schools. We appreciate it. Different conversations by different authors, movies, filmmakers, and the like. So we want you to support our broadcast by sending a donation, $ to our Cash App is $TFAM annual, and our PayPal is www.paypal.me/TFAM justice. We appreciate whatever it is that you sow into this great ministry that God has given us. Save the date. And so, like Bishop Flunder said, we are having our leadership conference that will take place August 5th through the 9th in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can register for it, www.radicallyinclusive.org. You'll find all the information on early registration, which has been extended to July 1st. And then we have regular registration as well. It tells you the hotel. If you go to www.radicallyinclusive.org, you will find all of that information. Our theme this year is Something Inside So Strong. One of the highlights will be featuring Bishop William Barber, preaching on heavyweight challenges, requires more than lightweight theology. It's going to be a series of conversations, mental health panel discussions, discussing the political realities of our time. We'll also feature the movie Bad Faith, and we will have a live Beyond the Gatekeepers discussion, talking about key highlights from the film. And then for those that are interested in writing, a special invitation is going to be given to engage Dr. Pamela Lacey and Dr. Ralph Basui Watkins. in TFAM's Third Testament writing project, because many of you know that Bishop Flunder has been talking about we need a new canon. So we want you to show up at the leadership conference. Save the dates, August 5th through the 9th. All right. Beyond the Gatekeepers. Make sure you put in that hashtag Beyond the Gatekeepers. And we know that you want to win the book. So Pastor Sue, let's hit it. Our winner tonight is Bishop Sonia Williams. Congratulations, Bishop Sonia Williams, on winning the book. I have your address. I will make sure that Dr. L gets it and gets the book out. The book is not out until June 27th. All right, June 27th. Wow. So we want you all to, in advance, pre-order the book. Get the book. We say congratulations to you. Thank you all for joining us. Dr. L, how brilliant, how wonderful you are to represent us, because you are a representation of us. And we are grateful for the gift that you are to us. And we really appreciate this book and this work. We know that it will expand us. We know that it will help us evolve in our minds, in our bodies, and in our spirits. Thank you so much. And thank you to our listening audience. We say God bless you and have a wonderful evening.